bring in our CBS 21 News political insiders, Charlie Giroux, our Republican strategist, Tony May, our Democratic strategist, on your camera left. And gentlemen, a surprising night for you?
Not terribly surprising. This race looked like it was going to be a very tight one. It ended up being that way. Not a huge number of votes cast, which I think is an understory here that's going to be talked about for some time. Tom Russell served up great weather, and yet a pretty suppressed turnout. Eric Papenfuss wins, but by a relatively small margin. Has a great opportunity now, and I know that the people of Harrisburg will look forward to that. And we'll also look to see how Mayor Thompson can run out these last 8 months, work with General Lynch through the recovery plan to do what's right for this city. I think it's a good time, a time for heal, a time for bringing the city together.
I love to cover the big national races and the, the presidential races, the big national ones with the big money and everything. But you said earlier today on CBS 21, I love these little races because these are the guys who have to get out there and knock on doors, kiss babies, shake hands.
Right. I mean,
for real. Not just in front of the cameras.
Local surveys showed Linda Thompson getting only half as many votes as she actually got. And I think that's a tribute to the kind of work she did door to door with her base of support and turned them out to vote to make it a much closer race than it appeared to be going into the election. I think Papenfuss rightfully won the race because he was the biggest spender of the lot. Surprising, Dan Miller seemed less engaged in this election than I thought he was going to be.
Yeah, I think Tony raises an interesting point there. I think that Dan Miller made a big mistake by not showing up at those early debates. It kind of set the tone for this race and gave Eric Papenfuss some running room to the opposite side of Linda Thompson, kind of created him as the alternative candidate. The early thinking was that a variety of candidates running against an incumbent would split up the vote and create an opening for her to go through. That didn't happen, and I think a large part of that was created, as I say, early in the campaign when, as Tony suggested, Dan Miller was a little less engaged than he should have been.
Now, what's really interesting tonight is there were 300 write-in votes for the Republican ticket. What's going to come of that?
Who might that be?
Right. That's the fascinating understory here. My guess is that it's Eric Papenfuss, just based upon the Republican electorate here in the city, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's Dan Miller. That would set up a very interesting triangulation for the fall.
Or Nevin, it could be 3 votes for 3 different people here. A small number of votes for each, and then it raises the question, will anybody reach the cutoff level, a minimum number of votes you need to get on the ballot as a write-in?
Which is 120 or?
I think it's 100.
100.
Yeah.
All right.
So you don't expect it to be a lone wolf, nobody that we've not mentioned in local politics. Let's move on to the York race. I mean, for a while there tonight, Mayor Kim Bracey had to run for her money, and as we've talked about before, she's done some great strides in York, running right up until this primary. But from here on out, the city of York has some great big challenges, Charlie, as far as financially and tax rates and things like that.
They do. These cities across the Commonwealth are faced with many of the same problems, and Mayor Bracey has them in York. She won again, although, again, not by the kind of margin she would have liked. And again, when you look at the raw vote totals here, she wins the mayoral position of the first capital of the United States of America with 1,300 votes. There are people getting elected to, small town councils and township supervisor jobs with more votes than that. It's really kind of a troubling situation that more people didn't show up today to vote.
What's to be said for that, Tony? Why aren't people hitting the polls?
Well, I think what we've seen across the nation is a general dissatisfaction with government, and it's the way that government has been going, being so severely polarized, is turning people off. They're just not participating in the process because they've lost faith in it, and that's a real concern to me. I mean, I think that where you have 5,000 people deciding the future of Harrisburg, you have less than that deciding the city of York, almost the same population, and
less than 2,500 there.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. But the population of the city is approximately the same.
I've been having conversations on Facebook on that very subject. People have just lost confidence.
Well,
in it.
confidence in government,
in
government is going to be the issue of the next couple of years, because it has to be restored. It has been lost for a variety of reasons. I think you saw people voting with their feet today. staying home, doing other things despite gorgeous weather and perfect conditions to be at the polls.
Right.
And I think you're going to hear a lot of discussion from both sides of the aisle about how we bring people back into the process and get them to exercise a precious right, but also a sober responsibility.
All right. Charlie Giroux, Tony May, guys, our political insiders, thank you so much for joining us with your insight tonight.